used to be so broken, lost, empty. A heart with no beat, a singer with no song to sing. So I know the feeling, the silence is deafening. But in your pain lies a blessing, a sweet and sour victory. So keep walking, 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 though it seems so far. No matter who you are, see there's one thing that I know. Life it can leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, 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 better. It's alright, dry your eyes, send a prayer to the sky. I know it's hard to find, but you must believe that it gets better. Listen to me. I know you're scared, your heart's bleeding. But what do you do now? I think it's time you break free and keep walking, 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 though it seems so far. No, it doesn't really matter who you are. See, there's one thing that I know. Life it can leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, 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 better. It's alright, dry your eyes, send a prayer to the sky. I know it's hard to find, but you must believe that it gets better. Oh yeah, almost out of here. See, I was almost done. I wanted to die from how I was done wrong. I cried out every night looking for a helping hand. That's when it happened. Jesus, oh, anytime, try him out, he'll change your life. See, I know that, yeah. Life, it can leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, better, better.
On Matthew 25 and 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, "Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king will answer and say to them, "Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me." That's powerful. And then it said, then he will say to those on the left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food, or was thirsty, and you gave me no drink, was a stranger, and you did not take me in, naked, and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they will also answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not minister to you? And he will answer and saying, assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Just think, when y'all get to heaven, some of that stuff y'all have helped do, you know what I'm saying? You'll say, when will we do that for you, Lord? Well, you remember you done this to help so-and-so. You're just doing it for me. Ain't that something? I'm going to talk a little bit today. I know we got a graduation and a baptism. And I want to talk about offense. Offense causes offense. So if I'm talking about offense, I don't want nobody to get offended with me. Let's look at Mark 11 and 20. It said, now in the morning, as they passed by, they saw a fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, remembering, said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered away. So Jesus answered and said to them, have faith in God, for surely I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore, I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them and you will have them. Listen to this one. And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive you your trespasses. That's a hard one. I know that's a hard one for some folks. But you've got to do it. And the reason you want to forgive is where you can be forgiven. It ain't to where in other words, you're not saying what they done was okay. You know, I'm not, because some people have told me, you just don't know what they've done. You know, I've heard some stories, and it's like, man, I thought, you know, only God can help you sometime. But you have to do it. You have to do this. And you're the one that gets set free from it. He sets you free when you do this. Okay, let's look at Luke 17 and 1. I didn't have this one wrote down either, I don't think. Then he said to his disciples, it is impossible that no offense should come, but woe to him through whom they do come. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones. Take heed to yourself. If your brother sins against you, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in a day, 7 times in a day returns to you, saying, I repent, you shall forgive him. Now he's saying, if they come, somebody's done you wrong and they ask you to forgive them, forgive them. That's what it's saying. I always used to just want to stop at the one, well, they need a millstone tied around their neck. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I mean? That when you really mad at somebody, you know, well, they need to read that. But on down here it says, I have to forgive them no matter what. Okay, and it's up to 7 times. Let's look at pull up Acts 24 and 16, just one verse here. This being so, I myself always strive to have a conscience without offense toward God and men. Okay, that's saying don't get offended with God and don't get offended with men or nobody. Now, offense is a hard one. In other words, if somebody does you wrong, you latch on to it. In other words, it's kind of like, say, for instance, if I said something in here and somebody got offended with me a little bit, and they thought, well, they was talking about me, or they was doing this, that's what he was meaning that, then you're going to shut off anything else I say. And you're the one getting shut off. In other words, so you have to learn how to forgive and let it go. I mean, I've had people, you have to learn to say, hey, if somebody's smarting off to you, maybe they got a corn on their toes, or something. Maybe they got, something wrong here, maybe they got a bad power bill here that they didn't have money to pay. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, for instance. I'm not talking about nobody's, you know what I'm saying? So don't get offended with me. But let's look at Matthew 24. I'm going to read this one. I'm going to start at 4. It said, and Jesus is talking about the last days here. So it's going to be, I'm going to read a little bit here, but let's look right here. It says, take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars, rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in various places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many, listen to this, will be offended, will betray one another, will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved, and the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. So it's getting a little off subject here, but TV and radio, people are getting the gospel all over the world. That could happen at any moment. Everybody in the world knowing about Jesus. But it says in the last days, many will be offended. And I'm telling you. And then let's look at Matthew 11 and 1. We'll read one more here. Now it came to pass when Jesus finished commanding his 12 disciples that he departed from there to teach and to preach in their cities. And when John had heard in prison about the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples and said to him, Are you coming? Are you the coming one, or do we look for another? Now this is John, who's seen the Spirit descend on Jesus and like a dove, and said, he's the one, I'm not the one. He know, John the Baptist, he knowed it. This is John after he got put in prison. So the devil's attacking him. And here it is, he's thinking, well, if he's the one, can he not get me out of prison? He's the Son of God. Can he not keep me from getting my head cut off here? So John's saying, hey, is he the one? Or is we look for another? And listen to what Jesus said. Jesus answered and said to them, Go and tell John the things which you hear and see. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he who is not offended because of me. He's saying, don't be offended with Jesus saying, don't be offended with me. And you think, well, how many people are offended with God? If you prayed for a loved one and the answer, the prayer that you wanted didn't go the way you wanted it, and something bad happened, do you get offended with God for not answering your prayer? I'm telling you, if you do, you need to really catch it and say, Lord, I'm not going to be offended at you. Because I'm telling you, there's going to be a day, and it could be any time, we're going to step onto the other side, and all this is just going to be history on this side. And it's going to be so good, and there ain't nobody going to be killing, there ain't going to be stealing, cheating, lying. Ain't that going to be a good day? And that's why when I get up here and I talk about stuff like this and I talk about breaking off ungodly soul ties, I don't want people having this stuff latched on to them to where they don't forgive and they don't step out and I don't want nobody to miss out. You know what I'm saying? I want us all to be there. And we will, with the help of Jesus. He's the only way. He's the only way. The word offense, and the Greek, it comes from the word scandalon, which means a trap. And the trap of Satan to get you in bondage. So when you get offended, you're starting to cut off your flow of the Lord right there. When you get offended. Now, when somebody makes you mad, I understand it takes a few minutes to process it. You know, I believe me. But I will say this. When I've got real mad at somebody and just mad, I'm talking about really mad, it's hard to praise the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So you're either going to be praising the Lord or you're going to be mad. So which one you want? I want to be praising the Lord. I don't want to be mad. And we're raised up from a little kid. Somebody slaps us, you say, well, you slap them back. And then you get on and on and on, and somebody, you smart off back. You're on and on and on and on. And then finally, you're going through your whole life mad because people know they're tripping you trigger, and then there you are. You know what I'm saying? Some people does it they get a kick out of you getting mad. I've had people do me that way when I was growing up. It's like, man, why do you do this? And then somebody says, if you wouldn't let them know that this bothers you, they'd go on and quit bothering you about it. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, like, that's right. I'm just going to let it go, you know. Life's too short. But when you get offended and you get all this stuff and you get mad, I'm telling you, it breaks the flow of God off. Rick Joyner, he had this, it was a book called The Quest. And he said it wasn't like a vision, but the Lord would give him this book. And he said in the last days he seen these Christians riding, and these demons was riding them like a horse, and had a bit in their mouth, and they was getting offended, and it was riding them, and it was pulling them, you know, and it's like having them bite and bawl each other out and everything. And I thought, man, is that not so true? In other words, the devil gets us all mad at each other. It's like, you know, it's like that joke I heard John Hagee had told it one time, and Jeff had told it here. It's like, said there was this guy on a deserted island, and they found him. And they says, what's those 3 buildings? He said, well, that one building's where I live. And that other building's where I go to church. He says, what's that other building? He said, that's where I used to go to church. So he got offended by himself on an island, you know what I'm saying? You have to learn to break this stuff off. I'm telling you, the devil knows it. I mean, he's going to ride you. He gets you mad and everything, I'm telling you. I've seen it happen in this church over and over and over. Everything been going real good. And then somebody will say something, and then sometimes, they said something that the Lord's going to have to deal with them to apologize. I understand that and all that. But don't let it get in here. If somebody does something to offend you, just, hey, I'm not latching on to this. I'm not going to lose no sleep over it, you know. And you have to forgive, and then the Lord will let you go in, and then who knows what the Lord's got lined up for you. You know what I'm saying? He's got all kind. In other words, he's got a whole different. You can't see the end from right now, but I'm telling you, when you forgive, say, I'm just going to forgive them. That don't mean go back and dive in it again. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you forgive them and you say, Lord, I want the peace that passes all understanding. I'm telling you, He'll carry you to another level. If it's a bad relationship, You know, you might not can see it now, but they might be something a lot better down the road. You know what I'm saying? Seriously. But the Lord loves you. He's got a plan and a calling on you. And then let's look at Proverbs 18 and 19. I might read a couple of these here. A brother offended is harder to win than a strong city, and contentions are like the bars of a castle. And look at 21. It says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And then 24, it says, a man who has friends must himself be friendly, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That's Jesus, man, I'm telling you. The Lord will, He will. You know, John Bevere wrote a book, and I was going to read some stuff out of it. I know I'm not going to start on this right now, but this is a real good book. If somebody's really struggling with stuff about being offended, round this up. It's called The Bait of Satan. And if you get offended, it talks about that's what the devil's got to break this stuff off. And he talked about how he had been in ministry, and this preacher had he worked and done all this stuff to set up these, they was going to do these home cell group type things. It said they got all the way up to the day they was fixing to pull the trigger about a week before. And he said, the Lord told me we're not going to do it. He said, what are you talking about? I said, we've been working on this for months. Why are you saying this now? He said, I'm just telling you we're not going to do it. Well, he got really offended at this preacher. And then the next thing he said, everything that preacher said, he was mad at him. He was aggravated. He was nitpicking every little thing he did and everything. So he said, finally, the Lord went to lay it on his on his heart to do something nice for this guy. And he said, well, Lord, what do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to buy him something. And this guy was rich anyway. He said, and he was going to get him a little something. He said, no, something good. So he said, Lord, he said, get something that you'd want. So he got him something, and he went and he forgave him and give him that, and they worked that and got back friends again and everything. And he's talking about how then he started feeling the flow of God in his life. I've seen this happen, you know, all over churches, all over, people will get split up and everything. And Joseph in the Bible, in Genesis, his brothers threw him in a pit. And if anybody could have been offended, it would have been him. And then they sold him into slavery. And then as he got out in slavery, and then they lied on him in slavery, threw him in prison. But he kept doing the right thing, even though all this bad stuff was happening to him. What happened? God ended up exalting him all the way to the second in command over all of Egypt. And he wasn't even wrong. I mean, he was Jewish. I mean, you know, he was. That's where they came. I mean, the Jewish lineage came from. And I'm telling you, the Lord knows your heart. He knows if you've been offended and if you've been hurt. There's this song, it used to be, and it said and I forgot how the words went on it, but it said, when you forgive, it ain't doing nothing for them, but it's releasing you. So you get released to keep. In other words, say for instance somebody's done you wrong, and you're hashing it over in your mind day and night. You're waking up at 3 a.m. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's done this. But then you go to thinking, wait a minute. They're probably snoring real nice, sitting back and don't even think nothing about it. Why am I still rattling this in my brain and letting them bother me now? So that's why you forgive. That way you can start thinking about something else and something better A lot better than wanting to choke somebody. You know what I'm saying? But you know, the people that gets offended easily the most is the ones right in your family. So it's real easy. In other words, if I say something to somebody and they get offended, you know, somebody that I don't know, you know, they might be mad for a minute, but they can let it go a little easier. But if me and Hope get into it and then I say something, you know, it could be days. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? If you get to arguing and say something smart or whatever, so you just learn to get along. You know what I mean? And don't say nothing to hurt somebody. But I remember one time, and I've told this a whole bunch in here, but we was doing hot dogs up at the jail. Hope ain't here today, so I can tell this again. Yeah. Anyway, so we got up that morning, and they had the hot dogs down here, so we ran down here and grabbed them. We was going up there, and then Hope was real quiet, and I could tell something was wrong. And she was like, and I'd look at her, I said, "What's wrong?" I could just tell there's something wrong, you know, but she wouldn't say nothing. So I went on a little further down the road. She said, "You forgot my birthday. It's my birthday." I was like, "Oh, man." Because, see, that's for it. Everything popped. I'm sorry. It's Sunday morning. I wouldn't write my tickets out at the store. I didn't know what day it was. And then, anyway, so she was upset a little bit because I'd forgotten. I thought, well, I'm sorry. So here we go. We get to the Marion County Jail. I'll go in there and I say, she's upset and I was feeling bad. I thought, man, how did I do this? How did I forget this? So I go in there and they said, they're going to send the trustees out to get the hot dogs. So here they come. And there's about 4 or 5 of them. I don't know. I don't remember who they was. I said, "Hey, could y'all do me a favor?" I said, "Can you tell my wife happy birthday?" So they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, just tell her happy birthday. It's her birthday." So here she is sitting in the car upset. So here these people go. She don't have a clue who they are. "Happy birthday, ma'am. Happy birthday, ma'am. Happy birthday, ma'am." I got in the car and she said, "Why did you do that?" "I didn't want them to tell me happy birthday. I wanted you to do it." Well, I said, "Well, I'm trying." I just kept digging my hole deeper and deeper. And then we get down here to the church, and Dale Hood was up there, and he'd seen it on Facebook, I guess. And he walked up and said, "Happy birthday, Hope." Boy, I tell you, that was a rough day that day. I've remembered it ever since. If I forget it again, I'll just put it this way. I'll go get me checked out.